Roll for Crit presents How to Play Drylands in 3 minutes or less or more. Drylands is the game in which players will go back and forth to see who can grow the largest forest or desert biome in Africa. One player will be trying to increase the amount of desert tiles on the board, while the other player will be trying to increase the forest tiles on the board. The game will start by placing a tile on the top of each starting location for the deserts and forest. These spaces will specifically show either a desert or forest, with the rest of the board showing grassland art. Keep in mind all these tiles are double-sided. They will show either a forest or a desert. Therefore, you can place all these pieces into one pile and share them, making sure to place the desired side when it is your turn. Then there are these special barrier pieces. I'll explain how these barrier tiles actually work in-game later on, but for now know that you'll be splitting them 4 for each player. You'll be placing them on the board one at a time, with the forest player placing rivers and the desert player placing mountains. Once each player has gotten their 4 pieces, you'll randomly choose a player to start. That player will place one of their barrier tokens on the board following these 2 conditions. 1, you cannot place a barrier next to an opponent's barrier, i.e. a river next to a mountain. 2nd, you cannot use your barrier tiles to wall off any section of the board. After a player has placed one barrier, the other player places one of their barriers. You will go back and forth until all barriers have been placed. Once all barriers have been placed, gameplay will begin with the player who placed the first barrier. You will go back and forth playing tiles until there are no more legal options. On your turn, you can choose one of 2 actions to perform in order to add more tiles of your team to the board. 1, you can add a new tile by growing. You will take a tile from the reserve, adding it your side up to an empty space adjacent to one of your tiles already on the board. Or you can move a tile by leaping. To leap a tile, pick up one of your tiles and move it to an empty space that is 2 rings away. So in other words, it's going to leap over a space, be it empty or filled with another tile, into a new empty space. Keep in mind, you are taking a piece already on the board. This is not you adding a new one. However, there is one exception over things you can and cannot leap, and that returns to the barrier tiles. Only forest tiles can leap over river tiles, and only deserts can leap over mountain tiles. In other words, wherever you placed your barrier tiles, your opponent will have a harder time using the leap action there. Regardless of whether taking the growing or leaping action, after you place your tile, you will flip over every one of your opponent's tiles, touching the newly placed tile. You have now gained control of these tiles, but it is still possible for your opponent to flip them back should they place one of their pieces next to those tiles. You will continue this going back and forth, either growing and placing new tiles, or leaping and moving your tiles until the board is filled. Then count the number of tiles showing your side. Whoever has the most wins. In conclusion, grow your forests, leap your deserts, and grow the greatest biome in the land. That's Drylands in a nutshell. Did you get all that?